in the last 6 months, PSU banking sector has given a return of 20% return. During the same period, private banking sector has given 6% return. So today in our session, we are going to discuss about, is there any fundamental trigger, any fundamental re-rating happening in public sector unit banking stocks, which is resulting in this crazy up move, or is there any cyclical up move coming in? So whoever are not aware, my name is Ganesh Komma. I'm an finance and investment coach. I help people to compound money to ensure they grow their wealth over a period of time and achieve their financial freedom in the shortest time. So today we are going to deep dive on a very important sector, which is public sector unit banking sector, right? Is there any re-rating happening, or is it a cyclical up move? We are going to deep dive, right? So we'll be looking at various factors on the segment. And before we start, a quick disclaimer: we are a SEBI registered entity. So any stock or sector which we discuss during this session, consider that purely as an educational purpose, because our intention is to teach you the theoretical concept and with more practical examples so that you can connect the dots, right? Don't consider them as any recommendation or a tip like that, because some of the stocks which we have discussed here, I would have had certain exposure, or we would have discussed with our community members, right? So don't consider them as any buy or a sell or a add recommendation. Rather use that as a case study for educational purpose, right? And investments in the securities market are subject to market risk. Read all the documents carefully before investing. So first of all, coming to the public sector unit banking sector, for the last 10 years, which is almost like for the last 1 decade, it is more or less like a lost decade, because there has been a challenge with respect to the sector quality in terms of its non-performing assets, in terms of its asset quality has been deteriorating, right? And we have been seeing NPAs increasing. We have seen substantial losses also, right? Erosion of capital and frequent government bailouts also we have observed. And also majority of the balance sheets of the PSU banks, they have been stressed out. We have seen some weak financial position and reduced lending capacity as well. And these headwinds have made the banks also not to perform very well over the last couple of years. As we move forward, right? So there has been some very good game changing events which we are seeing. Things like foreign ownership. Now, the current PSU banking sector, the foreign investors faced a combined 20% ownership limit in banks, be it FDI, foreign direct investment, or even in FPI, foreign portfolio investors also have the cap of 20%. And this is actually limiting the foreign capital to enter into the Indian market. Like let's say any Indian bank wanted to fund a very big company or is ready to take up a higher loan, but because of the limitation of capital also, it can't enter into big projects. It need to enter into a consortium of banks, and this is resulting in reduced opportunities for global investors also to acquire significant stake, the 20% capping. Whereas on the other side, if you see for the private banks, yes, private banks allow up to 74% foreign ownership. This is almost 3 times of public sector unit banks limits. And also higher limit would obviously attract international capital, growth perspectives, and a corporate governance as well. And better access to capital will help in expansion, technology, and competitive positioning. Yes, a global bank, normally if you see on the global banks, they are able to lend at a very big size. But in India, we face the challenge because of that capping for PSU bank. And private banks have an automatic approval for foreign investment up to 49%. And the streamlined process reduces bureaucracy and accelerates investment. And investment up to 74% requires government approval, but the 49% automatic route incentivizes initial capital. Now this problem or this small minor change will lead to a great growth perspectives in public sector unit banks. Now if you see the recent reports from September October 2025 indicates there is a very serious intent that government is thinking seriously about this increase of the foreign investment cap. And based on a small study, even if this cap from 20%, if it is increased to 26%, that means we are seeing an inflow of around $1 billion. And shares or companies within the PSU banking stocks like SBI, which is expected to have the largest inflow there, around $466 million, and banks like Indian Bank around $177 million. So this will unlock capital, boost valuation, and attract global investors, right? So this kind of a revival, more or less, we are seeing in the last a couple of months, September, October 2025, we are seeing there is a serious intent of the government also to increase the cap. That helps in re-rating of PSU banks, helps in increasing the liquidity and improved capital raising efforts. Now, this will unlock almost like $1 billion opportunity for the Indian PSU banking. And if you go back and check for the last couple of years, right? I'm saying about years, any sector which is like undervalued in terms of the valuation part is definitely PSU banking stocks, right? It is at a fairly valued, and with this kind of a government change, and even the recent Newama report also says there are like substantial foreign investment inflows also that are expected to come in. And this cap increasing from 20 to 26% for FPIs could unlock 900 million to $1 billion in capital, which will benefit, right? Which will benefit the entire PSU banking stocks also. It will have a potential to re-rate. Now, yes, looking at the investment outlook and opportunities for an investor, for a retail investor, someone who is trying to take an exposure into the PSU banking stocks, one opportunities, two risks we will look at it. Opportunities wise, yes, we are seeing a valuation re-rating. Even if you look price to book ratio of majority of the banks, even like just to take an example of SBI also, it has increased from 0.5 to around 1.5 because there are improvement in fundamentals. Credit quality is improving, right? We have been seeing a very good improvement in credit quality. Last decade, we have seen a problem in NPAs, non-performing assets. Now the NPA values are coming more or less equivalent to private banking stocks, right? Digital transformation. Gone are the days where PSU banking stocks were like completely like a brick and mortar kind of a thing. Now digitally also it's evolving, and it is bridging that gap between public and private banking related. And there is a robust credit growth, right? Strong domestic economy and enhanced capital liquidity, capital advocacy is enabling a very good credit growth. And yes, definitely on the risks wise, we have to keep a check on NPAs. How is the levels of non-performing assets? We have to keep a check. And obviously, banks, be it public sector unit banks, private sector banks, it is cyclical in nature, right? We always have a boom and a bust cycle, right? An up move and an uptrend in the entire economy. And banking sector is the backbone of Indian economy, right? So we will have that implication of the cyclicality of the economy as well. Fierce competition, yes, there are fintech companies evolving, private banking stocks, right? Private banking companies, NBFCs. So there would be a very fierce competition. And yes, macro risks, be it economic and political uncertainties, global scenario, political risk, geographical scenario, all these are the key risks. Just we have to be little bit more cautious. And right now the things are to be better on a cautious optimism, right? We need not be bearish. It's not a pessimistic kind of a scenario. It's optimistic, positive. Just that we need to be little bit more cautious. And looking at the fundamental transformation happening within, balance sheets are improving, right? So PSU banking stocks, if you see on the NPA level specifically, the gross non-performing ratio for PSU banks dropped to a 12-year low of around 2.3%, giving a very tough competition with the private banking stocks. And recovery wise is good. Credit growth has been very robust, right? And this also indicates economic confidence and potential for higher profitability. And project finance, as we see recently also RBI has come out with some wonderful guidance, guidelines and regulations where the project financing provisioning has been reduced from 5% to 1%, which frees up capital for banks to fund more infrastructure projects, right? And that stimulates economic growth and revenue generation as well. Global capital access for overseas additional tier 1 bonds, the limit is increased to 1.5% of the risk weighted assets. And also PSU banks now are expanding because of the valuation also are very, very attractive. One of the sector which you should focus for the next 3 years or beyond, specifically on the valuation also, is PSU banking sector, because the valuation wise it's very, very decent. And profitability, one very good observation which we need to do is in FY 2025, all the 12 public sector banks reported profits, right? And this happened for the very first time. And the combined earnings reached around 1.78 lakh crores, highlighting improved performance and financial health within the public sector unit index. Now, focusing on the investment strategy, yes, risk, diversification, market timing, then exact uptrend is where we need to enter, and fundamental analysis, we need to have this framework. And what you can do, you can also follow a basket strategy, basket approach. What do you mean by basket approach? You identify the stronger stocks within the banking sector, create a basket of it, and enter into the stronger PSU banking stocks. Alternatively, we also have ETFs, exchange traded funds in the PSU banking sector itself, or even a mutual fund in the PSU banking theme. So it will help us in the diversification as well. And now you look at all the investment options. First of all, yes, ETFs, exchange traded funds, over the last year has generated around 16.7%, the average returns of ETF. And the expense ratio is also cost effective, average around 0.5, 0.49%, the expense ratio. And this helps you to diversify, right? Instead of a stock specific kind of an investment, it will help you to diversify. There are mutual funds handled by the expert fund managers, and the last annual returns is around 12.85% average returns of the PSU banking mutual funds. And last, you also have direct equity. This gives you a higher potential of returns because this is more on stock specific you are entering. And this is suitable for investors who can take a higher risk. And this will help you to focus on companies which are actually very strong, both technically and fundamentally. So let me go to trading view. Let me just show you, like, let's say on trading view, you just build a basket of stocks like PSU banking stocks. So you can identify stocks based on the strength, and you can create a basket, right? I've just shown you a basket creation process in trading view. It's not a recommendation of a buy, add or a sell, but yes, similarly, what are all the stocks within PSU bank you find it interesting? You can create a basket and you can just check in trading view. Yeah, Canara Bank. So the chart looks good even on a weekly. Yes, it is at a very good breakout kind of a level, right? State Bank of India, one of the long-term stock in the PSU banking, both structurally, fundamentally, and technically looking good and at a good breakout. Maharashtra Bank, right? Bank of Maharashtra, evolving at a very good breakout area, and is also at a very good cheat entry, right? So if it goes in the right direction, there is a probability of filling up this gap, right? Filling up this gap. And Bank of India, more or less a similar chart like Bank of Maharashtra. Punjab National Bank, again at a very good breakout level. So if you look at the entire segment, more or less all the banks are evolving in strength, and more or less all the banks are at a very good breakout area. Just that a strength in price, volume, some institutional strength coming in, we can see this is a segment where we need to focus for the next 1 year or even 3 years and beyond. It's a long-term trend that is happening, right? Long-term trend. You can look at Indian Bank, Union Bank, IOB, Indian Overseas Bank, like that. Anyone who are like, sir, I'm not very keen, or I'm not very good at specifically stocking individual stocks, pick up an ETF, right? For example, Nippon India Public Sector Unit Banking ETF, right? ICICI Prudential Public Sector Unit Banking ETF, right? Any AMC, you can look at a ETF. ETF is nothing but it invests into a particular index. The stocks within that particular index, it invests based on the proportion, right? Based on the proportion, right? So I hope everyone have got the entire overview of the PSU banking sector, and I want you to know what should be your strategy in investing into a particular theme. And if you want to learn more about it, I conduct free webinars. You can join the free masterclass to learn about how to strategically enter, how to create wealth in investing. The link is below. You can register for the free masterclass and can learn more about it. And I want you to share below in the comments what do you think about PSU banking sector, and any of the stocks which are already tracking, which are already investing. If you have a long-term view about this PSU banking sector, let me know below in the comments. And any topic which you want me to cover in the next video, let me know below. Thank you.